for women, statistically, it's a fact. We are assaulted more often than males. And the most vulnerable age group is 12 to 34 years old. But make no mistake, it happens younger than that, it happens older than that.
Welcome to Let's Talk, ladies, Conversations Across Generations. I'm MB Roberts, an author and journalist, and this is a podcast where we talk to women from their 20s to their 90s about a bunch of hot topics. We ask questions, share experiences, and learn from each other. And it's not just about older women giving advice. We want to know what younger women are thinking too. Today, I'm joined by co-host Katie Neal. So let's get talking. Here's a question. Do you feel safe when you're out walking alone? I mean, if you're a guy, you may not understand the question. If you're a woman, you know what I'm talking about. Do you feel safe walking in your neighborhood? What about an unfamiliar place at night or a rural park where suddenly you're the only one? There's not another person in sight. Is this a disconcerting feeling, Katie?
Yes, so often, so often, I would say. Certainly after dark, anytime. Certainly even in the light, somewhere that feels very isolated. Yeah.
Yeah. What
you
about
think about it all the time.
What about like in the Uber?
Absolutely.
Or, at a store.
In a parking lot. Sometimes I, pull up in a parking lot and think, is this a good place to park?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all day, every day. The thinking that goes into that safety.
Yep. It's just part of our life. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've always been pretty aware of my surroundings, and I've become more so as I've gotten older. But back in my 20s, I lived in New York City for 7 years. That did impact it a lot.
Yeah.
And I really hate to be a nervous person. I've never wanted that to inform my life or if I was going to go somewhere or do something. But I think of the clueless things I did when I was a kid or in my 20s. I know I had the privilege thing going on for sure. Like where I grew up in Vienna, Virginia, near where you did in Herndon, Virginia. I was just out of college and I frequently would go running at night. Like along the main drag where the stores were. So I thought, well, that's where the stores are. But I mean, they were closed.
Yeah.
So it's like 9 or 10 at night. And I'm like, well, there's street lights.
Yeah.
I mean, I did that all the time. I must have a guardian angel. My friend and I did a notorious trip around the country after college. And I mean, we pulled up and slept by the side of the road in Big Sur, California, behind a rock. I mean, just out in the middle of nowhere, dangerous for many reasons. Just the things.
Well, I think I'm a more fearful person than you in general. So those are probably things I would not have done. Also, a little bit younger, as we've said. And, it's interesting that when I grew up, like the 80s and 90s, that was a big time when like the TV news. So you'd hear a lot about bad things.
Or there's an abduction. Or
I mean, some people have argued, I think have made a good argument that we were like almost too scared back then, in a sense that, they were just like things that were publicized, like Chandra Levy, like these big cases where there was a lot of fear around them. But, we know that as women, we do have those dangers.
I know. And it's like, so striking a balance, I think is really valuable, not to be clueless, but not to be, live your life in fear.
And it's funny, there's just all these things I think women do. Men always say, oh, it's so silly that women go to the bathroom together. That's not really to just gossip. That is safety.
Sort of watching out for each other.
Watching out for each other, or just making sure, your friend gets home safely and things like that. Those are things that you learn early on and I think stick with you. You
and
don't just leave a party without accounting for everyone you came for or whatever.
Yeah. But, I think there's a lot of value in confidence. That's a lesson that I hope that I've learned, or I hope that younger women will kind of adopt. It's how you carry yourself, and also trusting your gut. That's important, don't you think so?
Yeah, definitely trusting your gut. And I think we should say that this topic came up in a way because you were asking me, "Hey, what are your young friends talking about?" And I had just been to brunch, and
We get a lot of great material from your brunches.
from my brunches,
gals, yeah.
And that was something everyone was talking about because there had just been a really terrible incident here on the Greenway in Antioch, where
Nashville,
a woman was killed. And my girls were saying that, everyone had, oh, my boyfriend, bought me this pepper spray, or my mom sent me this, or again, that might have been one of the times we said, like, let's all share our locations. And it kind of broke my heart to think that they're all still just as scared as we were. And, how much progress we've made, some progress with the technology tools and with some things like that. But it's still, women still just have that same fear and carry that fear with them. And that makes me so sad.
That does make me sad, because I would have just on paper before we started the discussion thought, gosh, certainly women in the 60s or 50s or 40 would have been more scared, but their behavior was different. You didn't see, my gram grew up in a rural place, and she didn't go to bars with her friends,
right? Or didn't kind of move about the world as freely as we do.
Yes.
But it's not fair that that's the cost.
Yeah, and that is a cost if you don't figure out a way to navigate it.
Yes.
And I have one more question for you before we grab our guest. How do we stop worrying about being rude at the expense of our personal safety?
That's a really tough one. And, I read The Gift of Fear and have told all my girlfriends to read it. And that is very big on trusting your gut and not worrying about being rude, because, women are conditioned to be polite. If someone comes up and says, let me help you with your groceries, it'd be considered rude to say no. But also, and I have this all the time, if, someone comes up, an unhoused person or somebody who's asking for something, I mean, I don't know their situation, but they're saying, I need money. My instinct is to back away just for my own safety. And then I feel terrible about that. But also, you hear about people taking advantage of people's kindness.
Oh, completely. And you and I had this discussion because you were at a Target, and it wasn't that late, but it was dark.
Yes, it was dark. Yeah.
And a man came up to your car very suddenly.
Yeah.
And you were firm and said no.
Yes.
And I tried to reinforce to you that I said, no, this is not okay for a man to come up to a woman in a dark parking lot. And I don't see any scenario in which that would be okay. So let's not feel bad about that. But wow, we have a lot to talk about.
So much.
Trusting
I'm so excited.
your gut, having confidence. Today we're talking about women and personal safety with Stephanie Cyr. She's the founder of the personal development program, Power Up Moves. She's also an attorney and an educator with over 25 years experience as a specialist in violence prevention education. She's an expert in personal safety and empowerment as well, and we can't wait to hear about it. She's an accomplished martial artist who does all kinds of different moves. We want to hear all about it. There's a lot more, so let's talk to Stephanie. So today we're talking about what personal safety means to women and how it changes as we age. And we're intrigued that there are skills that you can learn to feel more resilient. So glad to have you here with us, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, good. We have so much to learn. The big question that Katie and I were talking about earlier is are women safe today? Are women safe when they're out and about? Is it a dangerous world?
Big question. Very big question.
Big question.
And that's subjective. Depends how you define safety. I think right now I could say it's uncertain times. Things seem a little bit more uncertain or unstable for a lot of folks. So there is a Gallup poll that says everyone of all genders feels more unsafe these days when they're out and about. And an easy one to start with is, guess what? Congratulations. We all survived a pandemic. And truly. And so for some people, that was an inconvenience. For some people, it was traumatic.
Yeah.
And what certainly came out of that in my world, personal safety world, is a lot of people seem to have misplaced their social graces and social skills, and just relearning them and how to interact and personal distance, this all goes right to your safety and feeling confident walking out in the world. So,
Well, I hate to think that people feel unsafe. Katie and I were talking earlier, and I think all women, no matter their age, are always conscious, whether you're
absolutely.
25 and
Their surroundings.
when it was 25 years ago, walking to your car, getting in an elevator, at work, on a date, in an Uber, it's just, I'm wondering if it's different now. Now it sounds like not so much.
So, one thing I just love about your podcast is you talk about how the generations, we all learn from one another. So I have that absolute privilege of working every week with college age students, which range from 16 to 60, right in that subset, and then younger students. So just recently I was with teens, grade school students, college students, all bringing up the same concerns. You made me smile. Parking lot, elevators. So across the generations, same concerns. And for women, statistically, it's a fact. We are assaulted more often than males. And the most vulnerable age group is 12 to 34 years old. But make no mistake, it happens younger than that. It happens older than that.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's your definition of safety when we say, oh, you want to, I want to be safe? What is your definition of that?
Be able to walk without fear in this world confidently. And that's what I do believe. It's my passion, teaching empowerment-based self-defense. That's what I can bring strategies and share them with people. And once again, safety is subjective, and they try them out. And what works for one person might not work for another. But just realizing that using your mind, managing your emotions, and using community, all before we go to physical safety skills, are huge and can make a very large impact on how you walk in this world, your confidence levels, your self-esteem, and decreases the risk of assault.
Stephanie, how did you get started in this work?
This was not my plan.
No? Oh, no.
Usually is.
I have a story. Gosh, it's so funny how things work out or come together in this sense. I was in grad school, law school, and I've always been very physically active, and I just knew I needed to blow off steam, blow off tension. I saw a martial arts class and I jumped right in, and lucky me, the instructor was, he had been on the Olympic trial team for Taekwondo. Wow. He was passionate. He was a great instructor. I believe he still is teaching. And it started. And that's where I first made the mind-body connection. But I truly, in martial arts, every martial art has a form of physical self-defense. Mm-hmm. And this is back in the day. This is what all I was being taught. So I thought, I'm learning some self-defense. It's purely physical. Mm. So then I become a legal intern, and I'm not capable of taking care of myself in the workplace, in the sense that harm came my way. And this was all a realization too of what is harm. I mean, just being looked over, disregarded, having someone else, my mentor, put their name on my work and take credit for it. And then the worst was someone laying hands on me. And what is sexual assault occurred to me. Meanwhile, at night, I was sparring with people, getting really physical. I was feeling so strong in my body. When that moment happened, wow. I physically leapt up, took hands off me, walked out of the office, and waited to get fired. And I did not get fired. I was an intern, offered me a position. And I truly believe they did that just to keep an eye on me.
Wow. Yeah.
And I did not take the position. I'm a starving student, putting myself through school. I did not take the position. And here's the rub. And I know I'm part of the majority back in this time and place. It was more shameful if I had told the other students I had been assaulted. Yeah. So I just told them I didn't get the job. I didn't get the position. And it really they talk about financial harm. It totally set me back, because that was supposed to be the position you were going for to have when you graduated. So I had to take a position that perhaps paid less, and less didn't put me on this track. I went on a different track then with my legal career. So meantime, I kept doing martial arts because it was a great physical release. I became a competitor, a coach, an instructor, an official. And it wasn't until I was assisting a grandmaster at the university where I currently teach that a male student pulled me aside and said, it's Stephanie, last weekend I got jumped, badly hurt, and none of the moves that we are learning in class helped me.
Wow.
And so he said to me, what should I have done? That's the question you get with the students. What should I have done?
Right.
And even then I was just beginning my journey on self-defense, but I knew instinctively to say, you took care of yourself. You're standing here. You did your best. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And then I started to do a deep dive in different ways to manage a threat and how to avoid it. Everyone thinks self-defense is all what to do in that moment. You're already being attacked. It's like, how about we don't get attacked?
Right.
Yeah.
That's so you're right, because we think of like, oh, how do I grab the wrist the right way? Or how do I do that thing where you're supposed to like, reach back and
right.
like
really, it took a student, and by the way, and it happened to be a male student, to give me a aha moment of, I started doing my research. I said, oh my gosh, I never used my voice. I literally did not speak when I started my legal career. I could write, but I was not speaking up for myself. And that's how the journey began and these techniques come from law enforcement, the military. Why security personnel? Why doesn't the layperson know them? It's de-escalation, communication skills. So now I'll go into workplaces and people pull me and say, it's after COVID, we have to go back to the office. Mm-hmm. Can you teach us street smarts? And what we start talking about is how you're communicating with one another and other people out on the street. But it changes workplace culture because we start talking about, some things are coming up in the workplace too. And
right, it's hard to believe. I like that you said de-escalation. Because I was sharing when we were preparing for the episode. This was only about 10 years ago. So I'm a 50-year-old woman. I'm not even, some like hot 21-year-old broad, but I'm at a small party with my family, and one of my brother's colleagues was being pretty, he was very drunk. He was very flirty, very inappropriate. And one of my brothers suggested I give him a ride home. And I did, only because my other brother was with me. And I'm like, okay, all right, but the whole time I'm like, well, this is his colleague. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to impact him at all. But the whole time, here's my older brother in the back of the car watching him try to get me to come inside his house right in front of my brother, who's a big man, and he went, this is, I finally just said, hey, another time, we'll get together another time. Just, it's kind of late. Goodbye, but I was much nicer than
tap dancing.
And he was just fascinated. He goes, why didn't you tell him to just, I go, well, he's, our brother's colleague. And I just figured that was a better way to do it. Just get him to get out and then we'd be fine. I had you here, and he was just like, that was amazing. I said, well, let's rewind to my 20s and my 30s.
Like, I have lots of practice doing this.
It's like,
right?
This is something we do all the time. And so
exactly.
But it's like, you kind of have to, don't you? It's like, I hate to think that you have to be so, not so direct, but that's one way to avoid confrontation, even though it feels like, gosh, I wish I could have just told him to go, what.
No, congratulations. You do. It's so important to do whatever you need to do to be safe. And that's different for everyone. And it's different depending on the circumstances. Think about what you would have done if your brother was not in the backseat. You didn't have that security or however it felt to you.
Yep.
Of him being there. But thank you for that story, because that touches on what especially older women will say to me, I don't feel strong. And you just said it. You've been doing this for so long. It's mental exercises. It's de-escalation. You do say whatever you need to get yourself safe.
Yeah. And I would want to think that, just speaking of the younger women, that I think the 50-year-old me, if I hadn't had my other brother, I would have said, I'm not going to drive him. I'm not going to be able to do that. But the 25-year-old me would have taken him by myself. and said, "Oh, I don't want to make everybody mad. I don't want to be a bitch," And so I would have taken him and hopefully been able to de-escalate it, but I don't know. And so that makes me like, I want to tell the 25. I'm trying not to tell young women what to do, but is that something? Do you think that our 25-year-olds now a little bit better than maybe we were at saying, no, I'm not getting in the car with that dude?
Yes and no. So it's really important to share. Studies have been shown, and it's what we should naturally be doing. But I shared my story being silent. Talk about it, share it.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been in the room with the 25 plus year olds, and they share these stories. They've already started this term sharing them. And I will have one person say, "Oh, I would be direct. I'd tell him off." And another person turns and says, "I would never do that."
Mm-hmm.
That to me is scary. So I would delay, or as you did, you use other tactics to get yourself safe. And it's interesting to hear them talk. To answer your question, I do hear more younger women talk about being direct. They're feeling stronger in their voice. There's a very famous book, The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker.
Yes.
We were just talking about it. Yeah.
Love that book.
Fantastic book on so many levels, still resonates today. And it just goes right to our politeness and how, as soon as we qualify our no, that gives them that opportunity to step in. So today, still, probably will continue for years, teaching people to say, I know what you've heard it, no is a complete sentence, but to say no, and to say no with their bodies. And this is anyone in wherever they are today. I've worked with people with certain disabilities. Maybe all they can do are make gestures or facial gestures, but the way you present and your tone of voice, you can say no with your whole presence, your whole being behind it. I do feel like really hopeful. I come from these classes. I was smiling that we would be talking today because I just was on the mat, and I am so jazzed by, and also the respect everyone's showing.
You mentioned the power of a code word. Like, if you're in a bad situation, the code word between a couple of girls could be, are you coming over later? And meaning I need an out. I need you to say yes, on the way, or a bestie could you have a signal to text me with an emergency so I can pick up the phone and get out of there. Or I like these just because we have things. Even Katie's younger than me, but I mean, if we were the same age, if we go out, then I say, text me when you get home. Yeah. Or, we do that all the time.
Well, and when I was dating, I've basically given up on dating on apps, in part because of the safety issue. But anyway, when I used to do it more, I would be like very good about texting, at least one person. This is the person's name. This is where we're meeting. This is what time. This is what I know about them. And I have noticed, like I said, a lot of my girlfriends are like in their 20s and actively dating. And I was sharing with MB that they were like, "Katie, you don't share your location with us. Why?" And I was like, "Why would I share my location with you?" "Well, just so we know where you are, just so we." And it was funny. I kind of like, had this funny reaction at first, but then I was like, this is a safety thing that they've just started doing. I think probably started in college.
It is great because we did not have that. And
about, and we'll literally be like, "Oh, so and so's on their date. Oh, it looks like they've gone to a different restaurant."
See, that's wonderful. It is finding your community and having each other's back consistently.
Yes.
So it's just lovely that they said, "Katie, where are you?"
Yeah.
Right. They're bugging their auntie here. Their older auntie.
Why don't you want to share your location?
I said, I could tell you another story with students, and it's good to share. One of them was in her friend group. Friend was going on a date, and right before she was leaving, she had told my student, "I just feel a little funny about this." And then she went on the date, and the student said to me, that just didn't sit well. And I didn't have to be at work, so I could do it. So she walked by the restaurant once, and she saw where they were sitting, and she just didn't see her friend smiling. And so she walked in the restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
And yes. And said, "Hey, how are you doing? I just need a minute. I need some help with something," and pulled her aside. And the friend said, "I'm not comfortable on this date." So they hadn't planned it out. She said, "Just say I'm having an emergency. You need to leave." And she pulled her out, but this is following your gut. and hearing something in her friend's voice, the hesitation, she said it just didn't sit right. And then they shared that with the whole friend group. And then, lucky for my class, she shared it with the class. So it's really good for other people to hear this. Like, oh, okay, that worked. Follow your gut.
I
Help
like
each other out.
follow your gut is huge. 'Cause I can think of you know, my younger my niece is in her 20s, but you know, it wasn't even a follow your gut thing necessarily. She's the kind of person that tries to do everything herself. I can solve this. And her little pals were at the prom. They went as a group, and then they were downtown Charlotte, and they got lost coming back to their car, and it was really late, and I was like, oh my gosh, is there somewhere you could have like gone right away, or you know, get to a safe place to figure? No, we were gonna figure it out. So these beautiful 4 girls are walking around in gowns at 1 a.m. and you know, thank goodness nothing happened. But I feel like you know, and I did that. It was younger, didn't want to offend somebody, as we talked about, you know, or I can figure it out. I can do it.
Well, a couple of things there. So that's where the generations have gotten better. You know, they now, when I state that line about how we're socialized to be polite, to not offend, and makes my heart burst when someone's like, hey, I can speak up.
Yeah.
But you said something important. I call it know your exits, or know where to go to safety. If you're going out to the prom, or you're parking your car somewhere, everyone pauses, looks around, where could you go? And you go to a well-lit place with other people. Middle of the night, it can be that gas station where the little convenience store, and there's one person in there, but you go and choose where you go to safety. And that's really important. Unfortunately, in a lot of abductions, it's somebody walking up, hey, they see these beautiful young women in gowns. You're in distress. Say, no, thank you.
Yep.
I'm fine. We have our boyfriends coming. We have an Uber coming. I will get slammed for that. Someone will say to me, we shouldn't have to rely on that. You're dealing with a threat. You do it and say whatever you need to. I cried
like that.
once. I pretended to cry. And then when I looked down crying, that's when I had to physically fight back.
Right.
But it gave me the advantage.
Okay, give you a pause or a minute. I like that. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and lie.
How do you balance, like, you know, I told MB earlier, like, I think I'm a little more fearful than you are. And I mean, I haven't 100% let it get in the way of doing things. But, you know, how do you find that balance of, like, just not being scared of everything? And
I know you don't want to skip, like,
you don't want to skip a solo trip or going out.
Or somebody invites you to something and it's at night, and you'll have to drive home by yourself. And, you know, yeah, how do you balance between the fear and the safety?
You have a plan. You plan well before the event, before you even go out or you take your trip. You do your homework. Or if you know you're driving somewhere, you'll be leaving late at night. You're mindful of where you're parking that car, distance from where you're going, who knows where you are. Make sure someone else knows where you are. It's really about planning and you making these choices, you having control over what you do. And say you're going to a party solo late night, and you get there and you're just it doesn't feel right. You give yourself permission, is one way to look at it, to leave. You give yourself permission to change the plans, and that's okay.
Last night I was taking a walk with a friend, and she the night before was out with her dog, and some coyotes were in the neighborhood. And then I said to her, oh, you know, like, do you bring anything with you? Do you bring, pepper spray or whatever? And she's like, I really don't. And then I was like, well, I don't even know if that works on coyotes or whatever. But what do you think of things like that? Like because she was saying,
taser. You can buy a taser on Amazon.
But she was saying, by the time I get to my pepper spray, it's too late. You know,
I definitely would spray myself in the face.
I agree with all of those comments. So my stance on it is pretty simple. No dedicated weapons. Just so informally, I don't have this up online. Informally, I've been pulled into the police stations back in the day. This was a lot of talk, and what they would see anecdotally is time and again, either the person couldn't pull it out in time, or they had it out, they sprayed it, and the spray either went back in their face, or they inadvertently sprayed themselves, and the person perpetuating the attack grabbed it from them. You basically announced, I have this weapon, so I'm going to fight back. Grabbed it from them, used it on them.
Yeah.
So it is so much faster. to use your mind, body, and voice to get out of a situation. It's all right here. You don't have to reach in and grab it. You can just go. My exception, we've already mentioned, is the beauty of letting other people track you or know where you are. They know like when you should arrive home. I do the same thing with my friends. We always just send the text.
Yeah, we do.
Just say I made it, and then when you haven't made it, someone checks you.
Yep. Oh, that's such a good plan.
Very important.
Today, what's our tip to be safer and more confident? What's our takeaway?
Definitely have a plan ahead, let other people know where you're going to be you out there in the world, wear what you want, look how you want, have your hair how you want, walk out there in the world, just be mindful. These are your choices. And so now you're just be more aware, be present. We talk about mindfulness, as soon as that's become such a thing, I'm a health coach too, and that's all a big part of wellness industry. It's a beautiful thing, safety tool. Super aware of your surroundings. Don't be distracted in that moment. It's taking care of yourself. It's being in control of what's going on. So then you make the choice of your response.
Yeah.
So do you think like being out with headphones and stuff, do you recommend against that if people are going to walk or hot girl walks on our head with our headphones and stuff?
I don't recommend against it. It's your choice. It's your choice. And then here's tips from students. So learning from the different generations, it's so cool. A student said, "Oh, he would get challenged all the time. He's a big strapping guy, whatever his appearance." He said other males would come up and challenge him. So he'd wear his headphones, highly visible, not subtle ones. He said, but he didn't always have the music turned up.
Mm-hmm.
He would act like he was ignoring them, and he'd use that as a distraction. And certainly nowadays, the students, they only put one bud in, or they don't have it on, especially on public transportation. It has, in the past few years, the number of assaults, random assaults on public transportation have skyrocketed. I used to have students who would take a nap. That was their only time they could get sleep between school and work. And I said, can't do that anymore. You have got to stay aware. But so the earbuds can be used, to protect you in different ways.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, I like that. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. We're gonna make better plans.
Yes.
I think we're pretty good planners, but we're gonna.
You're gonna share your location with me.
I know. I need to do that. Stephanie, thank you for being with us. We really, really enjoyed talking to you. Very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. I love talking to the two of you. This was wonderful. I really appreciate being on. So have a great day.
Awesome.
You too. Thank you so much.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Let's Talk, Ladies, Conversations Across Generations. We'd love to hear from you. If you liked this episode, please subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can also send us an email at comments@lets-talkladies.org or leave us a message at 629-888-3542. We'll talk again soon on LTL.